Welcome back to Arts Weekly. Joining me is John O'Connell and Mark DeLancey from the IPFW Department of Theater. They're here to discuss the upcoming production of King Lear. Good to see you both.
Thanks for having us, Chuck.
King Lear is considered one of Shakespeare's best plays and most difficult plays as well. John, why did you decide to do it?
Well, two reasons, Chuck. First of all, we're committed to a classical play in our season every 2 years. And the last time we did a play, we did a comedy, Taming of the Shrew. And as a mission to train our students for professional theater, I wanted that same group of students to have access to a tragedy within their 4-year span, comedy and a tragedy. So that was sort of the first reason. So what tragedy was out there that I thought we could cast and do and serve our students? And what's one of my favorite plays? King Lear. And do I have a Lear? And I had a Lear in Tom Hofrichter. And so once we put all that together and I brought it to the faculty, everyone was very excited about it. Plus, when it comes to Shakespeare plays, you know, there aren't many women's roles. And I think that Goneril and Regan are two of the best female roles in Shakespeare's literature. So.
Indeed. You're right. Shakespeare doesn't have a lot of women's roles, and this play has more than
most.
And
absolutely.
Are most of the theater majors at IPFW women?
You know, I would say that we have probably more women, but unlike a lot of theater programs, we've had a lot of men in our program for the last couple of years. So we were even for a while.
Tell us a little bit of the story, John, without giving away the ending, of course. But a lot of people have heard of King Lear.
King Lear.
You might not know the story.
You know, King Lear, a gentleman who decides to abdicate to his 3 daughters. All they have to do is pronounce their love for him, and he will
give away the kingdom.
Give away the kingdom. He will give away the kingdom. He'll divide it into thirds, provided that he still get to retain the honor of king. And all they have to do is profess their love. And 2 choose to do so, and 1 chooses not to do so, professes their love publicly in front of everyone. And 1 chooses not to. She is then banished for not doing that. And what ensues after that is really 2 hours of regret, greed, lust, jealousy, and sort of vicious undertaking of power. They begin to consume each other, the 2 sisters who got land, in order to seek more power.
Right.
You give them a little, and they want all of it.
It's sort of a not hereditary, but you know, the will is sort of disputed.
Yeah, exactly. The will is disputed. That's exactly what it is.
Very, very common. But there's a lot more serious and very, very worldly themes.
Absolutely.
That we'll get to in a second. But I want to talk to Mark with you for a minute. You're the set designer for the play. Relatively new at IPFW, as we like to say, slightly used. But you've been here a couple of years, Mark, and you're doing a wonderful job. But where are you from? What's your background?
Well, originally I was born, I guess, in Virginia. My dad was in the Navy, so I grew up on the East Coast. I ended up in Texas, did my undergrad at the Texas Women's University, and then I went to grad school in Alabama. After my MFA in scenic design and lighting design there, I went to New York City, where I worked as a scenic artist at the Public Theater, New York Shakespeare Festival, the guys that do this stuff in Central Park in the summer and downtown in the Astor Place Library area for the rest of the year. And I also was working at Stella Adler as a production manager and the resident designer for their seasons for about 8 years.
So you moved here from New York City, where you had a professional career.
I moved here directly.
And what do you teach here at IPFW?
Here at IPFW, I teach the stagecraft class, which is all about how the shop works. I also run the shop during the year. So I teach students how to appreciate the techniques and skills that go into building the scenery, painting, how to do it safely, and then I teach scenic design as well. I've taught stage management here 1 semester. I hope to teach a scene painting class next spring as well. So,
I always credit Mark with teaching me how to collaborate. We went to graduate school together, and I always credit him with really teaching me how to collaborate with a designer as a director.
And you know, collaboration is one of the things that I think theater teaches. You need to work together. You need to come up with, I mean, the director is overall responsible for the production, but in a sense, you need to work as a team, and I think that's a very, very good life skill to learn. But getting back to King Lear, John, and some of the themes, in many ways, many of the messages of the play, many of the things that the play is concerned with are archetypical, you know, and certainly have been replicated. One thinks of Kurosawa's Ron, the movie the Japanese director Kurosawa. Basically, Ron is a takeoff on King Lear. But these themes are not new. we hold on to power long past our effectiveness. We all leave this planet eventually anyway, can't take it with you. In the end, though, it's a play about redemption and how to live one's life wisely. But so what are some of the things that you're exploring in the play?
Well, I think that we're exploring that, out of the gate, it's about greed. Right out of the gate, it's about greed. And what does greed do to people? How hungry can we be when land and value and cash is involved? And it's also a little bit about ego. A lot of tragedies are about the fall of a great person. And, Lear's ego gets him in trouble because one daughter decides not to profess her love to him. And so he takes a very rash action. And right at the beginning of the play, I noticed it last night for the first time in the run-through. I don't know why I didn't, because Tom Hofrichter took a take on it. Right in the beginning, he's like, "Oh, I hope I'm not reacting too much right away." And then it's a whole 2 hours of redemption, of him trying to seek the forgiveness of the daughter who was actually most honest with him.
What does the role of blindness play?
Blindness plays a lot. It plays a lot. Blindness is probably the biggest metaphor, if you will, in the play. I don't know that it's a theme. It's a metaphor for what the play's about. But one character gets blinded by his opponents, literally on stage. And what happens is the metaphor, as it manifests itself, becomes that all the people who apparently can't see the truth. And the people who supposedly have the best view of the world have the most incorrect view of the world.
I always thought it's amazing how theater uses blindness to portray that theme. We have Oedipus, who was blinded at the end. We tend to use the notion of blindness, I think, in literature and in theater to represent how we fool ourselves, our own folly. What we don't see about ourselves is what ruins us, correct?
Right, and his youngest daughter, Cordelia, really sees the clearest throughout the play.
And she gets banished because of it.
And she gets banished, and Gloucester, his most important confidant, sees the truth throughout and Kent, who tries to get him to see the truth.
Yeah,
he banishes all of them. And
exactly.
So
the
really,
people who tell
Lear
the truth.
gets in his own way, which happens with most tragic figures.
Yeah,
most
indeed.
Tragic figures, they get in their own way.
That is one of the key to tragedies when bad things happen to otherwise decent people.
Right.
Mark, I want to get back to the set design. There's a lot of scenes. This play takes place in medieval Britain. Are you replicating every scene? Are you replicating the time and the place and the period of this play? Or are you doing something different?
Well, I think whenever we do Shakespeare nowadays, we, as an audience, we don't expect the audience to have the patience to sit through 25 full scene changes. So we're usually looking for some way to present it as close to in a movie fashion as possible, where we can go almost seamlessly from scene to scene and keep moving. So what I hope we've created is an environment that's evocative of this feel of the play, and it has certain architectural elements that are timely to Britain of a certain period. It doesn't seek to represent an exact architectural exactitude of any one location.
Yeah, and there's some little modern elements in it
we'll
as well.
do some minimal scene changing using some posts and some panels that spin to help us move us from space to space. There's really very little in the way of scenery that moves off and on.
Right, so it's
hand
sort of
props.
abstracted, but in a way the message comes through a little bit clearer when you let the actors act and we're not encumbered by all these scene changes.
Pretty close to the way Shakespeare wrote his plays to be performed, where they came on with hand props. Most of the time in the dialogue they'll say, "Here we are, here or there." They'll tell us vocally where they are, and as the audience is following along, we just give them a few hints. We can move through pretty quickly without.
But that being said, we
bogging
do
it
have a
down.
fair amount. We do try to change the set configuration pretty regularly according to as the script asks us to.
Yeah.
We just try to do it in an efficient and easy manner just by moving some stuff on
So
stage.
you guys work together a lot. You worked together before. How do you start? You both read the play, obviously, but how do you talk to each other at the very, very beginning?
Well,
Does John just come in and say, "I want the set to look like this," and you just do it?
Well, I used to. That's why I'm
we
telling
tried
you.
to-
You taught me how to do that. That's
we
what
try
I'm-
to avoid that. Usually what I like to, we'll read the play as all groups do. Usually everybody reads it separately, and they'll come up with their own list of ideas, what they think the play is about, the important scenes or themes, and then we get together as a group, the collaborative aspect that we talked about earlier. And usually what I prefer anyway is to have the director say, "Here's what I'm seeing in the play, and I like to see how that relates to what I see," and I try to dwell on what is the most common amongst all of us and build on that. So I look for themes from the director that come close to the ideas that I have. I might mention if I have a drastically different take, I might say something and just see if it sparks an interest. But
it is a process and a long communication, kind of a gestation period.
It starts at a dinner,
Yep.
usually with us. Starts at a dinner and let's talk about the play.
Oh, indeed. That sounds like a fun thing to do.
And,
Not bad.
and then I always come up with a concept statement. If it's a period piece, I try to come up with a concept statement. And I did, and I gave him 4 or 5 words to work with.
Well, you know, as fascinating as King Lear is, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It's one of my favorite plays. We have about another minute left.
Okay.
But I want to talk a little bit about next season in the theater department. You have some good stuff coming up. Why don't you run that down for us?
Exciting stuff. We have probably one of the most popular musicals. A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum begins our season. Then I'm doing a very classical Arthur Miller, All My Sons. And then we're doing our Purely Dance again in December. And then in February, we're doing 2 comic one-acts, one by Tom Stoppard called The Real Inspector Hound, and then an old actor piece called The Pot Boiler. Those are together and directed by Mark Ridgway. And then we're ending our season with Bertolt Brecht's The Good Person of Szechuan.
So you really have a little bit of everything. You have comedy tonight, as they say.
Absolutely.
And funny thing
and then followed by some tragedy.
Yes, indeed. The 2 masks, I know. And so people can get tickets early. They save money if they buy the whole season early.
Exactly. They save anywhere from $5 to $10 on a season ticket if they purchase it before July 1st for the entire season, all 5 shows.
Well, I could have talked for hours about King Lear. What a fascinating play. It's great to have it here in Fort Wayne. I hope people get a chance to see it, and I look forward to the production. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thanks you for having us, Chuck.
For more information about the IPFW Department of Theater and how you can get season tickets to see King Lear, visit ipfw.edu/VPA or call the Schlatzline box office at 481-6555. If you didn't catch us on PBS on Sundays, you can check us out on the internet. Arts Weekly can be seen on YouTube and Facebook, and you can always follow us on Twitter. As always, Arts Weekly can be seen Tuesday through Thursday on College Access Television. I'm Chuck O'Connor. Thanks for tuning in to Arts Weekly. Join me next week with guests Angie Quinn and Mike Galbraith from Arch.